I always knew I wasn't the kind of man you could cross. That's how I built my life. By making sure people knew that in business, on the streets, or even at home, my name meant something. My reputation was solid. And when words weren't enough, my fist spoke for me. I wasn't the type to beg, whine, or feel sorry for myself. Weakness disgusted me. I had built myself from nothing, clawed my way up through hardships, and I never let anyone take what was mine. Not even my wife. Sophia was the perfect woman in my eyes. Her curves made men stop mid-sentence, and her lips always held a teasing smile, like she knew a secret worth dying for. When we first met, she was playing hard to get, but I made sure she was mine. I crushed every man who thought they stood a chance. I gave her a life most women would dream of: luxurious apartments, vacations, gifts that made her friends green with envy. But more than that, I gave her me. I wasn't some weak, spineless husband. I knew how to care for her in every way that mattered. Or so I thought. It started small, late nights out with her friends, the ones she never named. A subtle change in her perfume. Something heavier, meant to linger on another man's skin. I noticed how she'd check her phone too quickly, turning away from me when she texted. She thought she was being careful, but I wasn't a fool. I let it play out, waiting for undeniable proof, a mistake, or a slip-up. Then one night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Curiously, I opened it and my blood turned cold. There it was, an image of another man, his pride on display, with a caption that made my jaw tighten so hard I thought my teeth might break. Your wife's favorite toy. For the first time in years, I saw nothing but rage, pure, scorching anger that almost crushed my phone in my hand. The audacity, the disrespect. This wasn't just cheating. It felt like a joke at my expense, and I don't tolerate being laughed at. By the time Sophia came home, our apartment was empty. She walked into a ghost town. Our expensive furniture, her clothes, her jewelry, all gone. Everything I had given her erased. She had nothing but the walls. And on one of them, I left a small gift, a blown-up picture of the image her lover had sent me, taped where she couldn't miss it. Underneath, I wrote my own message in bold black ink. I hope it tasted good. But that wasn't the real surprise waiting for her in the bedroom. I met Sophia when I was 28, already a man other men feared. I came from nothing, no rich parents, no safety net. My father was a cruel drunk who preferred using his fists to his words. My mother was a ghost in her own home, waiting for the next beating. By 16, I was already fighting, first in the streets, then in underground rings where the money was good, and the pain was better. It toughened me, carved something ruthless into my bones. By the time I met Sophia, I was already well established, not just in business, with real estate investments and some off-the-record deals, but in reputation. People didn't cross me. People didn't mess with me. Sophia, on the other hand, was different. She had that high-class look, the kind of woman you'd expect on the arm of a rich trust fund kid. But there was something more to her. Something wild, something hungry, that I could sense it the first time we locked eyes at a gala I had no business attending. She played coy, pretending she wasn't interested, but I knew better. Women like her didn't want some soft, weak rich boy. They wanted a man who knew how to take what he wanted. And that's exactly what I did. I made her mine. We got married within a year. It was fast, a whirlwind of luxury cars, exotic vacations, diamonds on her fingers, and silk sheets beneath her. She wanted for nothing. When our son Daniel was born 2 years later, I thought I had it all. A beautiful wife, a strong boy to carry my name, a life everyone envied. I was an idiot because while I was out working, securing our future, she was out there with another man. The injustice of it hit me. I didn't just give her money, I gave her loyalty. I never strayed, never even looked at another woman. For all my ruthlessness and the blood on my hands from my past, I never once raised a hand to her. I was good to her. I made sure she never felt lonely, never felt unsafe. And this was how she repaid me, humiliating me. Worse, she let another man mock me. That text wasn't just about cheating. It was about power. Some worthless fool thought he could take what was mine and rub it in my face. I wasn't going to let that slide. The moment I saw that text, I did what any real man would do. I tracked him down. It wasn't hard. I had connections, people who owed me favors. Within an hour, I had his name, his address, and every detail about him. Dominic Carter. Some pretty boy who thought he was a king, because he had muscles and a big enough ego to send pictures of himself. I drove straight to his place, my knuckles already aching for impact. I didn't knock, I kicked his door in. He was sitting on his couch, scrolling through his phone, like he had no worries in the world. The moment he looked up and saw me, his face went pale. "You think you're funny?" I asked, my voice calm, too calm. The kind of calm that comes before a storm. I didn't wait for him to answer. I hit him before he could say anything, landing a punch square to his jaw. He crumpled like paper. But I didn't stop there. I grabbed him by the collar, lifted him up, and slammed him against the wall so hard the drywall cracked. "She's my wife," I snarled. "Not yours. Not ever yours. She came to me, man." He choked out, struggling to pry my hand off his throat. "She begged for it," he gasped, and that was it. Rage exploded inside me. I slammed my fist into his ribs, once, twice, until I heard something break. He wheezed, his hands scrambling at my arms. "You think this is a game?" I growled, pressing my forearm against his throat. "You think you can just take what's mine and walk away?" I let go, and he collapsed to the floor, coughing, clutching his side like a wounded animal. I crouched down next to him, grabbed his phone, and scrolled through his messages. I found them right away, the texts, the photos. "I need you so bad, baby. I can't stop thinking about you. He doesn't satisfy me the way you do." I clenched my jaw so hard that my teeth nearly shattered. Then I found it, a video. I hit play, and there she was, my wife, naked, writhing, moaning his name like I didn't exist. Like everything we had, everything I built for her, meant nothing. That's when I realized this wasn't just an affair. It was total betrayal. And I wasn't going to let it go. I stood up, cracked my knuckles, and looked down at him. "You made a mistake," I told him. Then I made sure he wouldn't be walking straight for a long, long time. When Sophia finally came through the door that night, she had no idea what was waiting for her. She didn't know that I had seen everything, that I had read her messages, watched the videos, and memorized every filthy little thing she whispered to another man while lying in our bed. She didn't know Dominic had already paid his price. She walked in, looking tired, her makeup smudged, her hair a little messy. I wondered if she had even bothered to check herself in the mirror before coming home. I wondered if she had cleaned herself up after leaving his place. When her eyes landed on the picture taped to the wall, with Dominic's pride proudly displayed, and my message underneath, her face drained of color. Her purse slipped from her fingers. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Michael, She didn't get to finish. I stepped forward, my presence alone making her flinch. "Go on," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Say it. Say whatever pathetic excuse you're about to make up." Tears welled up in her eyes. She looked at me like I was the monster, like I was the one who had done something unforgivable. That's when I knew she wasn't sorry. Not really. She was sorry she got caught. I gave her a slow nod. That's what I thought. Then I turned and walked away. "Michael, wait. Please let me explain," she cried. I didn't stop. I walked into our bedroom, knowing she would follow, knowing she was about to see exactly what I had left for her. The bedroom surprise. The second she stepped inside, she screamed. Her hands flew to her mouth, and her knees buckled as she took in the scene before her. The bed was gone. The mattress, the silk sheets, everything. In its place was something else, a table, and on it, laid out like a twisted work of art, were all the reminders of her betrayal. Her wedding ring, a printed copy of every text she sent him, a USB drive labeled "Play Me," a neatly folded outfit, the one she wore in the video I found on Dominic's phone, and the centerpiece, a bloodstained baseball bat. Her eyes flicked to it, then to me, horror blooming on her face. What did you do?" she whispered. I smiled. Not a warm smile, not a kind one, but a predator's smile. "I handled it." Sophia's legs finally gave out. She collapsed to her knees, her breathing shallow. "Michael, I never meant for you to find out like this," she said, tears flowing. I scoffed. "That's what you're worried about? How?" "I didn't find out about the affair. It wasn't just the fact that you spread your legs for some punk who didn't even have the guts to fight back." Tears streamed down her face, but I wasn't moved. I had loved this woman. I had given her my loyalty, my strength, my name, and she threw it all away. I crouched in front of her, gripping her chin, forcing her to look at me. Why? I demanded. Why him? She swallowed hard, and for a moment, I thought she would lie. But then she surprised me. You scared me, she whispered. I froze. She let out a shaky breath. You're too much, Michael. Too powerful, too intense. I couldn't breathe around you. I let out a bitter laugh, hollow and empty. So you thought taking another man's would help with that? She closed her eyes. Dominic wasn't better than you. He was less demanding, less controlling, less everything. I just wanted to feel free. I stared at her for a long moment, then leaned in close, whispering in her ear. You want to be free? She shuddered. I stood up, pulling something from my pocket, a key. She frowned. What's that? I dropped it in front of her. The key to your new home. Her brow furrowed. She looked down at the key, then back up at me. What are you talking about? I stepped aside, revealing what was behind me, the open closet. Inside, there was only a single suitcase, the only thing she had left. No more luxury, no more silk sheets, no more designer clothes. You wanted less? I said coldly. Congratulations. Now you have nothing. Her face crumpled. Michael, please. I cut her off with a sharp look. I want you out. Now. She hesitated. What about Daniel? My jaw clenched. Our son? You don't deserve to be his mother. She gasped, shaking her head furiously. You can't do that. I already did, I said, stepping forward, towering over her, watching as she shrank beneath my gaze. I have proof. Proof that you abandoned your family for some lowlife. You prioritized your lifestyle over your own child. No court will give you custody. Her face twisted in despair. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did. She sobbed, her shoulders shaking, and I just stood there, watching, feeling nothing but satisfaction. She deserved this. She deserved all of this. For the final blow, I reached into my pocket again. This time, I pulled out a small envelope. I tossed it onto the table. Her trembling fingers opened it, and her eyes went wide with horror as she gasped. Inside were photos of Dominic, and photos of what I did to him. She covered her mouth, eyes wide with fear. Michael, she whispered. I smiled. I told you, I murmured. I handle what's mine. With that, I turned and walked out, leaving her alone in the ruins of everything. She was destroyed. She didn't move at first, just knelt there, staring at the photos with trembling hands. Her lips quivered, and her breathing was uneven. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out how to undo this, how to squirm her way out of the mess she'd made. But there was no way out. Not this time. When she finally lifted her head, her face was pale. Michael, she whispered. You could go to prison for this. I chuckled darkly. Prison? I took a slow step toward her. Do you think someone like me fears prison? I watched as the realization hit her. She had always known what kind of man I was. But she had convinced herself that I would never really act on it. That I was dangerous, but not to her. She had been wrong. Very wrong. I leaned down, gripping her chin between my fingers, forcing her to meet my eyes. Do you know what the best part is, Sophia? She swallowed hard. I let my lips graze her ear as I whispered. No one will believe you. She stiffened. You're the cheating wife, I continued, my voice dripping with amusement. You abandoned your husband, you neglected your child. You threw away your perfect life for a cheap. If you try to scream about what I did to Dominic, I pulled back, smirking. They'll think you're just a bitter lying. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I could see it. The fight draining from her, the slow, agonizing realization that she had lost. I reached into my jacket and pulled out one last thing. Divorce papers pre-signed. I dropped them into her lap. I already filed, I said. Sign them, and you get to walk away with something. She looked at me, as though she didn't recognize me anymore. Good, because the man who once loved her, he was dead. I turned and walked toward the door, pausing just before stepping out. One more thing. She lifted her head, her eyes full of silent pleading. I smirked. Next time you taste another man's, I said, I hope you remember the price. Then I walked out, leaving her sobbing in the wreckage of everything she had destroyed. I never looked back. I left her broken, shattered in the ruins of our life. I expected her to sign the papers, take what little dignity she had left, and disappear. But Sophia never knew when to quit. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of silence. 2 weeks of me focusing on my son, on rebuilding, on erasing her from my life. Then one evening my lawyer called. She's contesting the divorce, he said. I nearly crushed my phone in my grip. Excuse me? She's trying to fight for custody of Daniel. That stupid delusional. The final move. She had no job, no money, no home. I had made sure of that. She had nothing. Except the scraps that I had allowed her to keep what little she had left. And yet she still thought she could win. Fine. If she wanted to play games, I would end them. I dug deeper, calling in favors and finding out just how far down the rabbit hole she had fallen. It didn't take long to uncover the truth: drugs. She had been partying, drowning herself in alcohol and pills, numbing her own misery. There were photos, videos, enough evidence to bury her in court. But I wasn't just going to use them in court. I was going to ruin her name. The night before the first hearing she called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Her voice was weak, hoarse. Michael, please, she pleaded. I said nothing, letting her sit in the silence, drowning in her own regret. Then she started sobbing. I messed up, she whispered. No, I muttered. Her voice cracked. I just wanted to feel alive again. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. She still didn't get it. You had everything, Sophia, I said, my voice low, calm, and dangerous. A man who worshipped you. A family. A home. And you burned it to the ground. She let out a shuddering breath. I know, she whispered. I could hear it in her voice: exhaustion. Defeat. She was done. I signed the papers, she whispered. I smirked. Good girl. There was a pause. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? She asked. I let that question hang in the air for a moment before I chuckled softly. No, I said. And then I hung up. That was the endgame. She disappeared after that. No calls, no texts, no fights over custody, because she knew she had already lost. The last I heard, she was living in some rundown apartment across town, waiting tables, scraping by. As for Dominic, he left town after what I did to him. Some men never recover from a beating like that. Me. I moved on. I focused on my son, my business, and reclaiming my life. Did I regret what I did? Not for a second. Because in the end, she got exactly what she deserved. And I won.